So we speak about AI as if it actually understands the world. Does it really know the world?
Wait. Are you hinting at me that my AI in my pocket doesn't understand exactly what I'm feeling? Well, that's a bubble burst.
LLM versus world models.
Yeah. Do they need arms and legs?
And how does it manifest in our daily lives? Is intelligence enough?
Because whether it's arms, legs, or wheels, you will have to allow autonomy.
Right. But what is the effect on family? What's the effect on community?
And actually, is it safe to want it? Don't be ridiculous. Terminator isn't coming to get us. But actually,
I think the biggest problem around AI is that we speak about AI as if it actually understands the world.
Yeah.
As if it actually knows. But does it really know the world? Does it really understand? Is the fact that AI can look at patterns and actually then come up with words and create content, is that sufficient to actually then deduce that it understands the world, Lindley?
Wait. Are you hinting at me that my AI in my pocket doesn't understand exactly what I'm feeling? Well, that's a bubble burst. No, of course. I mean, isn't it true? I mean, if we talk about LLMs, of course, that's language. That is understanding in a narrow set of data. It's quite a wide set of data. But actually, if we're thinking about what AI really understands, are we looking at LLMs or are we looking at world models? World models are the concept, if you're not, I know you're aware of it, but everyone may not be, is that arms, legs, physics, understanding of up and down, these give you a much more accurate view, a fuller view of what we as humans need to know. So if you're working in medical tech, if you're working in sports science, if you're working with anything that has a physical physics nature to it, and as a former physicist, I pretend to understand these things, then LLMs are not enough. They have a great understanding of the data we give it or the cerebral information we give it, but not about the physicality that we need perhaps to understand the world around us. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, you really touch on a few points there, but I think we're almost in this debate now between LLM versus world models. Yeah. And if we're thinking about this from a viewpoint of, AGI, ASI, for those who don't understand what these are, artificial general intelligence or artificial superintelligence, the bigger question is almost which of these do we actually gets us towards that, right? And there's these two schools of thought. But I think what you're raising as well, which is really interesting, is almost a separation between something that has, almost like a pattern recognition engine, something that can detect here's how we form language, and something else that understands movement, physics, and the way the world actually works. Yeah. And it's an interesting, sort of something to put side by side, really. Yeah. And I think, maybe the question, I suspect this, just in terms of people watching this, is why does that matter? And how does it manifest in our daily lives? And, why should I care about whether it's actually an LLM or a world model that actually, comes out the other end of this?
And the big question a lot of senior voices in this space are asking is, do they need arms and legs? Do they need fingers? Maybe if you're operating on somebody, you might need a microscopic millimeter width finger to get into the nooks and crannies that normal humans can't get into, but do we need it? And actually, is it safe to want it? This goes down straight into every Armageddon scenario that we've ever talked about, the ones that used to make us snigger 5 years ago when we would say, don't be ridiculous, Terminator isn't coming to get us. But actually, effectively, do we need to make the generalized intelligences or the specialized ones move? Is that important? Is that too much? And I think, we tread this line between humanity and business in our time together. And I just wonder whether we need to get over the fear, or we need to put our fear forward to really understand the pitfalls of doing it this way or that way. Personally, as somebody who's in the information space, I think we just need to have augmentation still. I think humans need to be in the mix. Without us, you're not serving us. Therefore, we should be part of it. That's my broad feeling. And so autonomy is a little bit worrying to me at the moment.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think, staying with this idea of this LLM versus world model thing.
Yeah.
I think one of the sort of ways to look at this as well is to say, okay, if we went down the route of LLMs, what do we lose? And a really good story that comes to mind is one of a transport company, actually, that have used this LLM as a way to optimize their transportation of their vehicles. Yeah. And all these trucks are out there, and it's picked up the actual model has picked up that there's a flood around in the route that they would normally have gone through, and it's rerouted everything into somewhere. Of course, they didn't have that, right? And what's happened in the end, and what they actually found, was it was kind of right that there's a flood over there, so that's unlikely to be the best way to go. Yeah. But long story short, they find that actually it caused a clogging up of the alternative route. Which was kind of, in a situation where there's an emergency and there's a flood and whatever else, it makes sense. But digging deeper, they actually find that there's different levels of flood that actually were in reality. And some of them were actually not so bad. So they didn't actually need to reroute everything. And the question there is, and some people have this, this idea as, is intelligence enough? Or do we really need to bring in the physical element?
We clearly do, to get to artificial generalized intelligence. We need to, if you want to make that leap, the question is, again, it's a values question. Do we want to make that leap? Is it important enough to us to make that leap? And then where are the boundaries? If you want boundaries in there. A lot of people don't want boundaries. If you look at Silicon Valley, of course, there's a lot of talk, and there are various groups there who want fewer boundaries, not more. And in fact, it's a race to the top. It's a race to the most generalized that you can get, with all the foibles and personalities that might bring to you, which you won't be able to control. So I suppose, without putting a limit on it and a fear layer onto it, I think it's just a question of, why are we doing it? What do we want to achieve? And how important is it for us to allow that to happen in its own space? Because whether it's arms, legs, or wheels, you will have to allow autonomy. We heard early on, this is a long time ago, we heard early on with the driverless trucks, is they wouldn't allow human-driven cars into it, and people couldn't get off the motorway. Worse happened as well. So it is important, I suppose, to go wider and to have generalized if you want to make the localized intelligence really work. If you want that truck to go down the motorway and let cars in, driven by good old-fashioned humans, you need to be general enough to allow for wider awareness and physical awareness.
Yeah, and I think that's an important sort of thing to pull out. The debate seems to be one of LLMs are pattern recognizers and not physics sort of enabled. And I think that's a really, really sort of fundamental difference, isn't it? But I think going beyond that, there's a question around which of these systems, whether those are LLM systems or world systems, which of them is likely to actually understand consequence? Which of them is actually likely to understand causality? Why is a thing happening? And actually, how would it feel when this happens? Yeah. And then I think lastly is, which of these systems is likely to lead us towards understanding the more of an ecosystem view on things, and understanding, right, I understand the effect on Edosa, I understand the effect on Lindley, but what is the effect on family? What's the effect on community, right? And I think that level of understanding is a big question around which is likely to get us down that route.
Oh, we've trumped into philosophy, but it is so important. And the difficulty here, I feel that we're giving human expectations to non-human systems. So it is. If we take that route, we'd better make that version of the human, the world model, that better be at least as good as the most caring, sharing human in your life, because you want to have all those facets into that thing. So I suppose the question right now is, where do we put our money? Where do we put our attention? Do we spend our time pedaling fast and worrying about this as an idea? Or do we actually invest in the right things so that at least on a small scale, world models do add an extra, a depth, a gut feelings at all to the systems that we're using to represent AI? Do we bring this in as a small factor, or do we go wholesale and become world models, not LLMs?
Lindley, there's so much to talk about here around this, but I do think we'll leave it here, and we need to come back into this, don't we?
Yes.
So, Lindley, that was another really good episode. And thank you for making the effort, coming all the way out here, seeing face to face, sitting around a table, and really trashing out some really thorny issues. But I think it's important, Lindley, isn't it, that we go beyond. There's so much news, there's so much out there. Going beyond that and actually trying to tie it all in and make it relevant for people, make it relevant for businesses. And I think we seem to do it really well.
Well, thanks for getting security my name, because I know sometimes you'd rather have me out of the building, but you allowed me in, which was great. But yes, I mean, it's so important. And, just like your best chatbot, sometimes it's best to summarize. And I think the key trends that we look at in these discussions, look, they are fundamental. They are literally fundamental to all the conversations we have around AI and its development and the values that we're picking out. Look, I mean, you'll have your own thoughts as to what's valuable. Also, the kind of the human values that need to be in the bots and the other systems that you are using. So we really want to hear from you, to get in touch at AI Values. As always, we love hearing from you. I mean, actually, more than that, it's really important to all of our conversations. And one thing that Edosa said a little while ago in a previous episode was, do have chats among yourselves too. This is a conversation that we all need. Get in touch with us by all means, but also take whatever you learn from our episodes and our podcast to your conversations, because only then will we come together and work out what's best in the development of AI.
Yeah, absolutely. And just remember, I think this is really not about Lindley and I. It's not about us. It's not even about the institute. It's actually about what impacts it has on you who's listening or watching this, wherever you are. So keep telling us. Tell us what you agree with, what you disagree with, importantly as well. And let's just keep having that conversation. Have the conversations amongst yourselves, amongst your cohorts, your networks, your colleagues. And let's keep that conversation going. And that's the way we move forward. But sadly, the end of another episode. But the great thing about the end of one is that we have another one to look forward to. So that's the spirit. That's the positive twist on this. And so for now,
and from me, you won't believe the people we're about to meet. We'll see you in those episodes coming up next time.